All right, guys, welcome back. So, just a few moments ago, I was talking about baking stuff and what exactly is baking. Um, okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at what baking is before we continue. It is the um, it is the function, or basically the creation of a full animation curve. If I go ahead over here, if I just select this here and I just edit this. If I go over here, currently, as you can see, oh wow, we've got loads of these things over here. Wow, that's pretty cool. If I go over here, for example, and you see all these keyframes, they're not really like this isn't really an animation. Okay, if I go ahead and select all these keys, and I just go ahead and say, right, I want this to be a step thingy. This is what my animation really is. You know, it's basically a bunch of states, and Maya Maya just interpolates between them. Right? It doesn't really create an animation. In order to really have an animation, I would have to have a keyframe on every frame because that's what a frame is, right? I mean, if you've ever played with your little notebook and created a notebook animation, this is exactly the same thing. So if you ever needed to make an animation, need to actually bake the animation so that all these keys turn into keyframes. Okay, right. So far, so good. I hope I'm not you're not lost yet. Now, the important bit that there's a little bit of a difference between baking an animation in here and then baking an animation in here. If I make an animation here and I decide to, let's say, basically create this, right, and I basically group this, right, and then maybe I keyframe maybe I create another track, right, another animation track, and I import something else. Maybe I drag this over here like this, right, and I unmute this. If I can unmute this, that'd be nice, please. What's the story now? Why is this unmuted? Unmute all tracks. Oh, well, in this case, I think something bugged out. But let's say I got this bit, right? And then I group these together in two tracks. And then I go ahead and create this thing here. And I just go ahead and create another layer. And I've got a bunch of these things, right? But why? Oh, I've soloed this. My bad. That's the story. It was my bad. I'm sorry. Okay, so you can see that I've got a bunch of these things here, and you can definitely go ahead and just play around with this, go have some different animation sets. Now, after I'm done with all of this, what I can do is select all of this stuff, and I can just, first of all, flatten the layers. So I want to flatten these layers. If I can select them. Just flatten these layers. So flatten this layer. There we go. Now this is a baked layer. Everything I've done is on this layer. This is very much like a Photoshop. Again, you can flatten an image there, and all the layers will basically go down into one image. Now, usually I really don't do this. I mean, I find this to be a bad idea because you cannot actually reverse. I mean, you can undo this, but if you after some point decide to this isn't what you want, you're gonna have to delete the layer, and do this all over again. But let's say you're done with whatever it is you're doing. You got a layer on the group as well, so this is something else here. You got a layer on the group, and it also does something. So you got a bunch of stuff, loads of modifiers. But at some point you actually want to bake this out. So like you've done your little composition, and you want to make sure that it's all in one animation. So what you do, you basically select everything, select all the clips, and let's say in this case, this clip is being governed by the group. So you basically go ahead and basically bake this into a new clip, and possibly delete. So this is going to bake everything into a new clip and delete all of this other stuff. It's like the bake layer and the animation clip too. It still stays because it's a separate thing. Now, obviously, you could go ahead and bake that as well. So you can go ahead and bake this into the scene, or you just flatten the layers, which we've already done, which is kind of pointless. So let's go ahead and bake this to a new clip and delete this as well. So currently, I got two clips, right? One is the baked, which is with the group with all the modifiers, and this one is the baked, which is without all the modifiers. But if you break this down, take a look at what we've got. We've got keyframes for every single frame. We got keys, which is exactly what we need in order to make this animation to work. Okay, so in this case, I'm just gonna go ahead and delete this. delete these tracks because I don't need this. Obviously, this is not what I want because I was screwing around with my animation here, right? So this is definitely not what I want, but it is baked, okay? Now, if I go ahead and export this, I'm actually going to export this with the curves, and that's the important bit. So far, I have not found a way to bake these clips onto a skeleton without actually doing this prior. So just to let you know that maybe you find that. I really don't currently. I've tried a lot of different ways. I've searched all over the internet. I cannot find a way for the life of me to bake something onto the object that counts. Because currently, remember, our objects that are driving the animation are these curves. These curves are not going to be in our final game. Okay, I mean, imagine if this was for a game. But every time you do an animation, you want to have a control rig, and these controls they don't have anything to do with the game. They're not going to be in the engine. We're not even going to export these things. We need to be sure that these controls move our joints around, but it's the joints that are going to be having the animation on them. So we need to go ahead and select the joints. And if we go ahead, I'm going to delete this, by the way, because I don't need this. If we basically go ahead and take a look at our frame right now, frames, there's not much happening here, by the way. So if I disable this for a second, my bad. Let me just drag this for a second. We do baked animations. We don't really need them, so I'm going to delete this. This is our basic source. I'm going to drag and drop this over here, and this is my my basic animation again. Okay. If I go ahead and bake this, okay, like I did before, and then export the selection, this is only going to export. This will export the clip, all right, but it's not actually going to export the skeleton, right? I need to bake this clip onto the skeleton. In order to do that, I have to select the skeleton, which is my skeleton here. Come on, dude. There we go. And then I need to select the hierarchy. Remember, we want. I said select the hierarchy. There we go. Remember that we want all of this data, all of this information here to go onto the skeleton, right? But since we have two punches, we also need to somehow cut this apart. In other words, once I start baking, I need to bake something separately for the skeleton. I need to bake something separately for the for the other side. Now, there's two ways to do this. First way is to just bake this as it is. So if I go ahead and go into keys and I decide to bake this, currently we have no keyframes here, remember. If I decide to bake this, and just open this as well so that I can show you something. So you've got the game exporter as well. Okay, so let's go over this real quick. First of all, before you bake something by hand, it is not necessary to do so. You can actually go ahead and export everything, export your selection, and bake. Export selection and bake your objects here. So if I go ahead and I can currently include a bunch of stuff, but if I want to include an FBX, obviously there's nothing to include in the FBX. I can actually edit my preset over here. And I can say, okay, so currently we've got our baking thing. So if I go ahead and select these presets, which are currently we're at media and entertainment, but if we go ahead and play animation, we can bake our animation and say, all right, so currently our maximum, like our animation goes from 0 to 50, but because we have 0 to 50 like this, but because we have two punches, we could go ahead and go from 0 to 25. Right, and then bake that and then export that, or we could go from 25 to 50, which is another story as well, right? But I'm not going to do that for now. What I wanted to show you is that I actually want to bake this because currently we've got two options here. We've got animation clips, okay, which are clips that we create from our, this is the game exporter. This is, by the way, animations when you got something really long, let's say 1,000, 2,000 frames, and you've got your run, your jump, your idle, your all of that jazz. So you can create a clip basically and say, all right, this is my jump, and it begins. Let's say this is my haymaker, right? And it starts at 0 to 50, right? And then you've got the you can play this back, right? You can actually set the playback range on that, and this is what you're going to see. This is your first clip, and then you can add another one and say bitch slap. right? And it's going to go from 25 to 50. To 50. And then you're going to set this, and this is my bitch slab, right? And obviously this is what I want, and then you can choose the path. You can, well, I didn't even know you could, I didn't even know there was such a thing as FBX review. But anyway, in the settings here, you've got the same thing. You can save multiple clip files, which is what you want. Remember, whenever you're making animations, never have the same thing on a full 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 frame timeline, because whoever is importing that after that, you need to have your, like, you need to have like a list of all the keyframes so that they can cut it up afterwards. And it is a huge pain in the ass. It is slow, it's inefficient. And if you decide to make a change, you're going to export the whole thing again. Listen, just just follow what I'm saying. Never, ever export everything in one go. I'm going to ignore my own advice here because I'm not going to be using this, okay? However, never export the whole thing. You always need to cut it up to pieces. Obviously, you have the exact same option here on the time editor, but instead of having clips, you need to actually have time editor clips. These are different, right? So animation clips are here in this case. If you want to work like that, be my guest. And the time editor is if you got clips in the time editor. And then again, you've got the same thing. Either save clips to a single file or save to multiple files. And it's important that you always save clips to multiple files, because once you start dragging these things into your engine, you want to have a clean drag, all right? You want to have as painless an import as possible. If you have to go ahead and check out where all the frames are and like where's my jump and oh gee, which frame was the right timing at? I lost my flying, you know, my flying paper here. With I thought all the keyframes, I just lost that. What am I gonna do now? I'm gonna have to look through the whole animation, and then you've got like all of this completely mapped out because it's baked. Remember, right? It's not like there's one keyframe at keyframe 50, and you're like, oh yeah, 50 is my max. No. You're gonna have a bunch of these. Good luck finding where your animations end and begin, unless you have like huge gaps between them. So anyway, what you want to do is to always save to multiple clip files. And obviously you can move to origin your exports, which basically means that you zero them out. And then you got the bake animation, which in my case is what I want to do, right? I want to bake the animation. And obviously the up axis is Z in our case, because Z is the up axis in Unreal. So make sure to change that, all right? You can embed different media such as a clip, like a clip, little clip, or a texture or whatever, and you can have a different file type. You can also go ahead and just change all of this. For example, if you want to have advanced settings and you change the geometry. If you're exporting, by the way, if you're exporting the whole thing, just make sure to get rid of tangents and binormals. We're going to talk about that later, but don't click that. What else? Make sure to use the FBX version that is actually listed on the Unreal website. Currently it's 2016. Earlier versions are 2013 and lower, so make sure to have that. Then you specify your path, and then you click export. Now I'm not going to do that because, like I said, I'm going to do this in one whole fell swoop, because I wanted to show you how to do this in the animation editor as well after that. Now in my case, I actually would want to export this first so that I can have an actual object that is counted. Now I've already done this, and if I go ahead and actually open up my projects over here, and we go into Maya and we go into the worm ball, and you've got my data, I believe. This is my hand. This is my hand, the FBX, and it is empty. Basically what I did, I exported this without animation, nothing. I just exported the skeleton with the with the mesh, and that's what I've got. Okay, it's over here. So now I'm gonna export bake the animation. So here we go. Go frame number 0. It doesn't really matter. We need to bake the whole range. Okay, I'm not gonna do the come on. Select hierarchy. Seriously, dude? Are you gonna really let me do this now the hard way? Select hierarchy plus this. Well, actually, not plus this. I don't need that. I'm just gonna bake the animation right now. So go ahead and go to key and go to bake animation, and the default settings are fine. So just reset the settings. Here you've got one more thing, by the way. You can either have. Let me just reset these. You can either keep your baking to your bake animation base layer, or you can have a new layer. However, the new layer, that's the only thing I really don't like about this, is that the new layer is going to be over here. It's not going to, you can't actually bake to a new clip. At least I can't see this happening. So if you bake this to a new layer, it's going to pop up on this side. But you're going to have to export the animation from this layer. And then after you bake that, I'm not too sure how that whole thing works, because like I said, the time editor does not support these animations here, and the time editor is best used, by the way, when you have something that is already baked. So, you know, I mean, I don't know. You know, take your pick. So basically, I prefer to just bake it to the base animation. It isn't entirely possible to bake it to a new layer, though, and you can keep the bake layers. Let's go ahead and keep this bake this onto a new layer. I'm going to sample by 1, meaning that every frame is going to be baked, and I'm not going to be oversampling. All right, no need to smart bake. Smart bake is basically lowering your file size. If you got like 20-30,000 frames, you don't need every single keyframe, right? Maybe you could skip on a few. So the fidelity here, you can change the fidelity, resolution, etc. The sparse curve bake, it's like, look, if you're gonna cheap out on your bakes, you know, you really have to be hurting for resources, right? So just bake the damn thing. Oh yeah, you have to select the object. For some reason, I lost the selection of my object as well. Okay, let me just go ahead and really annoying. There we go. Select hierarchy. Now go ahead, key, and then bake animation. Now my animation is going to get baked. Boom. Notice all these inputs. These are all my inputs. And notice when I select my joints, how now they have a bunch of keyframes. That's exactly what I want. And also notice that I'm currently on my bake results over here, which is exactly what I want because I want to export this. However, how do I want to export this is another question entirely. If I go back into the time editor, right, I still have my animation clip, which is over here, which is being, if I go ahead and select the driven objects, it's actually these two losers, which I do not need. Now, my options include, I could either, A, export my selection like this, go ahead and grab this with this, and export my animation later, or I could go ahead and grab this layer like so, because currently, if I remove this, notice that on this layer, these guys don't have any, these guys don't have any keyframes on my bottom layer, remember? Okay, however, because I've muted, because I've just baked this, this actually removed all the inputs that they have, all right? So this means that if I go ahead and play the animation, currently it's gonna be broken because I've lost everything, okay? This is a problem because, like I said, I need this to be working. And even though I have it on a separate animation, I can't actually add this animation over here. So there's another thing as well. So if I go ahead and select this, it's currently on this animation. Notice that the keys are being driven by a blue thing. And I can actually go ahead and change the color of this to be whatever, to be, let's say, green. And there's my green thingy. And now it's being driven by my all these things. So if I go ahead and select this, and I then again select objects, so currently I have this object over here, I cannot actually add this here. Let me just say, to create clip from selection, it says that you have a problem, which is attributes who are being created from our animation layers. Even if I press yes, nothing's gonna happen, okay? Because there's gonna be conflict. You got two animation editors, and really, I really thought you might as well just delete the damn thing, but whatever. Anyway, I've got the ghosting on. I just removed this for a second. So as you can see, we've got two animation layers here, and they both have a different setup. All right. If I mute this, this has no keyframes. If I unmute this, this has all the keyframes. Now, currently, I want to go ahead and just solo this. Right. This is an override mode, which is amazing. And now I can export this. Okay, because it's currently baked. What do I do? Well, my first option again is to go ahead and basically go into mesh, export. Where it is? Export selection, right? And I can export this animation. And I need to go ahead over here and just edit the preset. I don't need to bake the animation because I've already done so. I need to change, however, my axis of orientation, which is Y, and I need it to be on Z, which is important. I don't need any constraints because who cares about constraints? Don't need any skeleton definitions, any of that. FBX format was fine, so I'm going to save this preset, which is, I'm going to just close this because I already have one. I just run tests on it, so I'm going to close this. This is my current preset. I'm going to export the selection, and notice even though I've saved it, I still got all these things here. I can still add stuff, remove stuff, right? All these options are available to me if I want to, let's say, edit something out. But let's just say that I currently want to only export the animation. I don't really need the mesh. How do I do that? Well, I just remove this smooth mesh. Unfortunately, there's no way to export the clips just yet. So if I had to bake something, I would have to bake it on the base layer of the animation and then go ahead and add it to the clip editor and then export this as a clip. But let's just say that I want to export the whole thing, right? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go into data. This is the hand that I've exported. Now I'm going to export this hand. Sorry, did I select the, I did not. So I need to select the mesh as well. Again, file, export selection, and then the same thing here. I believe I need to edit the preset again, which is unfortunate. Z, oh no, it's good. And then I need to export selection, and then I'm going to go into data, and I'm going to say hand. Haymaker. All right. I'm exporting this thing. It's being exported. Come on, go. There we go. Now it's gonna give me a bunch of problems, like, you know, animation is not baked and this and that. But that's because, again, you know, I didn't bake the animation through there. I got a bunch of these settings here, and then again, I've got some constraints that are running, which if I needed to save, I would have probably had to set it up as, you know, skeleton definitions, etc. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is essentially opening a new scene. I'm not gonna save this one because I don't want to save the baked information, right? If I wanted to save the baked information, we're gonna have problems. So don't save this. And now we can import. So let's go ahead and import our animation. Import. And we want the hand haymaker. Okay, let's see what's the story. 50 frames was the max. I'm gonna max it out over here. And I'm gonna play this. Nothing happens. Why is that? Because I screwed something up, did I not? I believe I had my layer muted. That is a problem. Okay, let me just go ahead and open this up again. I don't want to save this now. Oh, crap. I lost my animations. Okay. Well, this is embarrassing. I just screwed it up. But look, I hope you understand the premises. I'm going to use another setup now because I did this before as well. I just wanted to make this more of a combat video, so to speak. So if I go ahead and create a new scene and I import this. Geez, I kind of thought that I would have had the damn thing. I can't believe I forgot to export the animation. Really, this should have exported the damn thing. Fucking balls. Namespaces. I don't have any namespaces. This should be fine. I should be getting all the damn animation. It told me it couldn't export it though. So that's annoying. Now I don't even have the freaking things, man. I mean, that is so annoying. That is so annoying. For some reason, it doesn't even show me the X-ray joints. Oh boy. Ah, this sucks so hard. I just lost my animation. Oh wait, what? I still have the bake results? What the hell? So it exported the layers, but didn't export it. What the? What? Oh no, 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 no. How many layers do I have here? None. Okay. How many layers do I have here? Okay, import. Import assets. There's a damn thing. Clips, data. Haymaker. Oh, for crying out loud, how can you export the damn animation layer but not the fucking animation on it? Ah, balls. Alright, look, forget about this. I'm just going to show you how to use the... Alright, now I'm really pissed. And wasted like a ton of time just doing this shit. And fuck balls. I didn't even save this. I don't even know why I didn't save this. Okay, I'm just gonna open up a new scene. I'm not gonna save this. Just gonna import this sucker here, which is my basic hand. As you can see, it's basic, right? And now I've got my time editor, and if I go ahead and take a look at this hand has got absolutely no animation on it, which is fine, which is fine in this case, okay? If I go ahead and just x-ray my joints got no animation, nothing has an animation on it, which is just fine. Now if I go ahead and just stop this, I get so annoyed now with this bullshit, man. I can actually create a combo, and that was the whole idea of the previous video with the haymaker. Okay, now but because I don't have a goddamn haymaker thing, I need to actually make it separately. Okay, so currently I have composition 1, and I'm going to import from external files. I'm going to import my hook, and I'm going to import another thing. I'm just actually going to go ahead and where's my import here? File import, animation clip straight, and then I'm going to import another animation clip. I'm going to put it on track 1. Uppercut. So now I've got 2, which if I go ahead and put them at 1, and I can have them over here. Hey. Where's the animation over here? All right, there we go. It's more like it. So I've got my uppercut, I've got these, I got this, and I got a straight. So currently I have 3 punches, which are just that way. And now I have a combo, right? If I play this, I got 1, 2, and 3, and I can obviously group these together or speed them up, so I could probably scale this together and just make this faster, the uppercut slower, the hook maybe faster. I can edit these settings over here. Maybe I can just double down on some punches. Let's say I want, let's say I just want this to be a secondary thing. So I'm just going to duplicate this, copy and paste it. Maybe I should have pasted it on track 1. There we go, and then put it over here. I don't want these keyframes. So currently I got this, and I've got this. And now if I take a look at my animation, it's going to be something like this, I believe. Go ahead and play. Boom, 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 straight. So I got 2 hooks. I got 2 hooks, 1 uppercut, 1 straight, okay? So maybe I want to have another straight so I can I wonder if there's, why is there no duplicate though? I wonder that, whatever. So copy, and I'm going to paste this again. Track 1 over here. So I'm going to paste this over here, paste this here. Come on, dude, seriously. All right, so I've got this bit here, and then I need to move this over here recursively. There we go, and now I'm going to open it up, and now I have a whole combo over here. Let's just see what I've done. Boom, boom, 2 hooks. Oh shit, I used a hook. I should have used a straight. So where's my straight take, and then I'm going to paste this. Obviously, you don't want to be doing this. You don't want to be creating these tracks here. So I'm going to delete these tracks. Usually, you want to be selecting it. You want to have the track selected. So let's see what I've got. I've got a straight, a hook, an uppercut, a hook, and a straight. So I got something like this, and then I can obviously blend between them. So if I go ahead and blend this in, and blend this in, and blend this in, right, and then blend this in, and this should be a little bit smoother, right? I play this, boom, 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 and boom. Let's say I decide to speed this up. So if I group all of them together, well, like this, and I group them together, and then I just scale this down so that it's faster, and then I go ahead and just go nuts, bomb, 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 right? And obviously I can do this individual to each individual clip. So if I decide to speed this one up or slow this one down, I can obviously do that. So I could have this bit here sped up, and then I can maybe zoom in and just speed this bit as well, and speed this bit as well, maybe something like this. So I really don't need this whole group to be so long, so I can trim this down. I can play this again, and this is going to be a very fast type deal. Bam, 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 bam. So there's going to be like an increase in speed, right? Notice how my keyframes are getting closer and closer together. There's more and more of them together, right? At the end of the day, though, I can remember, because right now these keyframes are on my skeleton, I can go ahead and I can bake this to a new clip, and I can select the driven objects. And as you can see, the driven objects are actually the bones. So if I export this now, I will actually have all my keyframes if I bake this, okay? Because right now all these are working on my object over here. All I got to do is bake my animation again and export this. And because I've got this on different layers, I can actually bake clips separately, right, and save them as FBX files. So if I go ahead right now and save this, let's say this is a combo, right, and let's say I decide to bake this and export this. It's already baked anyway, so I'm going to export this as an FBX. Actually, wait, let's go fancier. Let's say I'm going to bake this, export this, and I'm going to save a thumbnail. I'm going to capture a play blast of it, right? And I'm going to say playback from 1 to, how many frames we've got here again? 50 frames, right? So I'm going to say 50 frames. And I'm going to capture this over here. Boom, 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 boom. And I'm going to save this. So currently I have a actual video with this thing, right? And then I'm going to export. And I'm going to say full combo, right? And I'm going to export this. Right. Unfortunately, now this exported only the clip. It did not actually export the data because now this is only a clip exportation. I'd have to actually select this and then export the whole thing with the animation on it. So let's just go ahead and take a look. If I go ahead and open a new scene now, not saving this one, right? And I try to import this. So if I import this, and we go into a hand haymaker, this is not something we need, but we could actually use that because this is the same hand really. Let's go ahead and use this then. So notice that my current position is weird, bad. If I go ahead and import something from a source like a full combo, it immediately snaps it back, and I've got 50 frames there, I believe, and this has to be a 50 frame file. Let me just put the whole thing in perspective. Not 50, 51, because it has to be 0, of course. 0, 50, 50, and this should make it realistic enough, I believe, if I go ahead and snap this. There we go. So now we should be able to see this work. Boom, 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 right? This works because this is an animation clip, meaning that I can actually stitch together different clips without destroying animation. Right, but notice that in order to do that, I actually need to have them apart, to have these clips apart, which I did. Now, if I want to actually bake this, I'm going to have to either use, only bake out certain regions. So let's say I just want to use this punch here. So let's say I want to go up to frame number 13. So frame 13. If I wanted to do that, I would actually have to go ahead and select this. And just show these through. Come on. So I select this, select the hierarchy. No, I need to select the hierarchy and then select the mesh. And let's say I'm going to be exporting for the game now. If I don't use the game exporter, which is here, okay, because I can actually use the time editor now and go ahead and I'm going to add a clip. Obviously, I need to select the clip here. Let's say I want to export these animation clips or whatever, and use them in a game, I would use this exporter. Okay, so if I select this clip and I add this, I'm going to have this from 0 to 50, and I would go ahead and select from 1 to 13. 13. What? All right. Okay, I actually have to be selecting the clip. I can't actually cut this from here, which is not cool. I kind of thought I'd be able to do that from before, but then again, you can use the animation clips and again do the same thing with the 1 to 13 range. But currently, let's go ahead and take a look at this. There are no keyframes on our object. Again, remember this: there are no keyframes. Now I'm going to delete this layer because I really don't like this idea of deleting layers. Having layers that we don't use. So now I want this animation to be as part of my game. Okay, and obviously, I could go ahead and import every single file here, like the punch, the uppercut, the straight. Obviously, if we managed to export, I don't know what happened, I forgot to do something there on the haymaker or on the bitch slap, we could have made an even longer combo, but let's just keep it at that, keep it nice and civil. We could go ahead and simply export our selection, assuming we have a selection, of course. There we go. File, export selection. You could also send, by the way, to Unreal. For example, if we had a project set up, which I believe I did. Did I? Yes. So we can actually send this to Unreal if we were doing it. It's basically going to export the selection anyway. But currently, we could, let's say, you can include these different options if we were using something other than FBX. Okay. But let's say you're going to export the selection, and here over here we can use. We're going to bake it in on the export. Okay, so if I go ahead and do this on the bake animation from 0 to 50, you could say that I want to use from 0 to 13. So this is my one punch, and I'm going to export that. I'm going to say hand first punch. I'm going to export this. Complex animation bake. What? Yeah, I know it was exported. Okay, so let's see what happened now. By the way, we can also export this. Remember, told you. So if we create a new scene and we import this now, just close this. We import what we just exported. I believe we should have the punch. Okay, there's definitely something wrong with my exporting things here, because I'm pretty sure I had the animation checked. Let me just see here real quick. Did I have animation? Yes, I did. Okay, this is very weird now. I'm gonna have to cut this short, and I have to check if I have what's my problem here, because I believe I should be getting all of these things. Maybe I'm missing something. I forgot what I... Look, the idea is, right, you bake the animation onto your object, which is going to be driving the animation, which is going to be your joints. Okay, you bake the animation onto your joints, and then you export just the joints once you have this thing exported. So first, let me just go through this process. First, you export your model with the joints, okay, including the skin, right? So that you skin your model, right? It's in your basic default position. Currently, let's say this is the default position. I don't have any animation on it for now, which is very weird. And I'm going to export this, okay? I'm going to export just this on its own without any animation on it. So if I was to export this into a game, I'm going to export the selection, and I'm going to go ahead and export the selection. I'm going to remove the animation from here. It seems like it doesn't really matter if it's on or not, but let's just say that I'm going to remove all these things. I don't need that, and obviously I'm not going to calculate the tangents and binormals. You can have your smoothing groups if you've got the level of detail. That's what it is, smoothing groups. But for now, we don't have anything, so we can actually do that. I'm pretty sure we don't need to have any constraints or skeleton definitions, because that's what I forgot to turn on. Okay, whatever. It doesn't matter. Let's continue where I was in the beginning here. So what you want to say is essentially, I have a mesh with a rigged skeleton to it. Okay, so you export this. Then after you create a particular animation, you do the same thing. Let's say you bake it into your skeleton, and you don't select this mesh. The mesh is just a reference for you to see what you're doing, how your animation is going to look like. Then you grab your skeleton, obviously select the whole hierarchy, then go back into export. This time, when you're exporting your selection, you don't want the mesh, so you can remove the smooth mesh on it, right? You can remove this, and I think you don't have to remove this. I'm not too sure. Then you keep the animation on, and obviously, I believe you have to have your skeleton definitions on it, because if you don't, it's not gonna be driving the animation. I believe that was my issue here with it. I'm not too sure why it wouldn't save it though. But anyway, you save this bit on, and then you have your animation skeleton, your animation tied to the skeleton, and your skeleton tied to the mesh. So even if you decide to change the mesh, you're not gonna have to export the animation on the next time, right? I'm gonna show this more appropriately later, as in when we're done with our worm, because I just want to get back on track here, because I kind of went over the board. There might be another video when I explain, depending if I just have to check what exactly I went wrong here, and I'm gonna have to re-explain what exactly is the story with the export import thing. But this is basically the workflow. You create the mesh, you create the skeleton, You bind the skeleton to the mesh. You skin the mesh. In other words, you paint your weight so it works and deforms correctly. You export your skeleton with your mesh. Then you animate the skeleton with the mesh so that you can see what's going on. But you export and bake only the skeleton. So you bake the animation onto the skeleton, export the skeleton only. This is the information that you need, which is going to be compatible with the mesh that you exported, because the skeleton is going to remain the same between the two. Okay? And obviously in between you need to actually sort out your UVs. So before you export the skeleton, before you export the mesh, you need to sort out the UVs for the said mesh. So we're going to talk about UVs in the next video, because the UVs have to be done before animating. And to be fair, you could skin and animate and rig and all of that, but eventually you're going to need to work on your UVs, and in order to do that, you're going to have to start creating duplicates and transferring attributes and all that jazz, and that's not what you want. Okay. Oh boy. Okay, I'm very sorry for the haymaker and the bitch slap. I'm probably gonna make another video just to show you the full combo, how it's gonna look like. But yeah, I'll see you in the next video, guys, when we either talk about UVs or I just show you the full combo, because this really annoyed me. I just want to see what the fuck happened here. All right, I'll see you next time. Bye bye.